everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. And right at the gate, you're going to see that my friend here, Nathan, is quite dressed up. If you're on the podcast, you're not going to see it. You should check out the YouTube video. He looks amazing. He's got a bolo tie, cowboy hat, and there's a reason why. And actually, at the end of today's episode, we're going to give you guys a pretty entertaining, special little music video. This is the grand release. This is a big deal.
This is it. In fact, I'll give you just a little bit right now.
Oh, we're gonna go and give him the sneak peek.
Just a little sneak peek.
We can give it to him at the end.
Maybe just a little look.
Give him one verse.
One verse.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. I've been looking for deals in all the wrong places. Okay.
All right, that's it. But at the end, we have the full everything's gonna be great. But today, we're gonna be talking about modeling what works, figuring out what did we do to build our process in real estate to figure out what works. In every business and investing, like what do you do when you're trying to model what works? So we've gotten a few deals actually over the last few weeks in our venture. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, so obviously title is looking for deals in the wrong places. And so with saying that, we want to look for deals in the right places, right? And that's the mindset.
Right.
And so, so many times we get so used to getting caught up in, just look here or just look there. And then what happens is it dries up. And when it dries up and we have that closed mindset, and all of a sudden we're like, well, there's no deals up there.
Right.
And, I've had conversations with a couple people this week, and, they talk about our flips and all this stuff and different things. And, we're extremely blessed because it's like we're buying deals so much more now than we ever have been when people are saying they don't find them. So it's because we have a system, right? And we buy them. But even with what we're doing, and we've seen traction with this new philosophy, this idea which we know works, but we're trying to obtain certain deals, right?
Right.
And if you looked at the deals that we bought this week, would you say like most investors, would they buy those? Or even in this wholesale world, I think a lot of wholesalers may go after them possibly, but who's their end buyer?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's where like we found success is looking for, and we're putting together something where we're going to talk about this, but it's like those ugly and hard deals.
Yeah,
like everybody wants the 3-2-2 in the middle of town, right? Like, every guru talks about that. Every investor talks about that. Every wholesaler talks about it like that. Like, yeah, it's a super saturated market,
right?
And so it's like, the whole point of this funny little song that we've got, but is really true, is like, kind of. I mean, definitely at some of the first properties that we ever did together were some of those what everybody else was doing.
Right.
But then we took little steps away from that, finding where are these other markets where nobody's at. And like one of the deals that we just picked up this week, it's two little, third acre lots in Granbury, tiny little things. We'll probably make 5-10 grand on the whole thing, like nothing huge, but it's still a deal, right?
Yeah.
But I bet you this guy has not even gotten one other offer letter for these lots. Maybe one, but like nobody else is out here. We found, and the thing is, I think you gotta figure out like what's working. We haven't stopped flipping, we haven't stopped looking for land, but we're also looking in the right places, not looking for deals in the wrong places.
That's it. But no, seriously, talk about that. So breaking it down, there's a couple things that I wanted to specify. So these lots we're looking for, just to give you guys an idea, the guy that we're buying from, he owns like 6 pieces of land all in this same little pocket. And what's interesting about this pocket is, so we owned something in this pocket. Oh man, what was that? Like 3 years ago. And we ended up, making a profit. We cleared the land and we ended up selling them in separate parcels. And so when we knew that, we saw that this guy owned multiple parcels. And so for him, it's like, yeah, I definitely want to sell off a couple of these.
Yeah.
And so it works for him and it also works for us, and it's a win-win. And here's the thing, he gave us his price.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we weren't really that far off on his price.
Yeah.
And so for him, he's satisfied with what he's getting. And for us, we know, okay, we might use this strategy, we might use that strategy. And when I say that, I mean, okay, maybe we'll put a mobile on it. Maybe we'll just clear it and sell it as is. Maybe we'll just sell it as is the way it is. Maybe we'll hold it for 6 months and then see if value increases over there. And that's what we're talking about is, like he said, I bet nobody's even putting anything out there to say, hey, I'll buy your property to let you know there's demand.
Right.
And then I also thought about something was Kendell mentioned a couple, I think it was 2 weeks ago in our first one, we were talking about that Gunnison house. And the Gunnison house, I all of a sudden thought about that. And where we found that house, you'll never believe it. And I'm sure out there you guys would be like, "There's no way."
Whoa.
And it was on Craigslist.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was in the prototypical spam ads.
But it wasn't from like the big, like any big names, right?
It wasn't.
Right?
No, it was an
just
actual
like
agent. And so Mr. John, he's my right hand man with the Ambition Group, and he called me one day and he's like, "Hey, I found this deal." And basically, it said on there, real estate investors throwing in the towel or something in that sense. Their loss is your gain. I don't remember how it was worded, but basically, somebody else was going to try to do the rehab, and they didn't want to do it. And so that's how we obtained it. It was through an agent. It took like 4 months to close, but that, like you said, was one of the best deals that opened our eyes at that time to be like, wow, this is really a great way to operate instead of just doing the traditional agent thing, which is what I'm completely trying to get at it. Right. So, it's when I think of those two examples, I think it'd be wrong for us not to mention the third one we had. So we actually have a second one that we've locked up this week. It was this week, Monday.
The mobile, or are you talking about
the mobile?
Lots? The mobile was last Thursday.
So last Thursday. Okay. So yeah, but same thing. It's something that if anybody was going to look at this property, I'm telling you, majority of people will be like, "Oh, what did you buy that for?" And if we told you the price, you probably say, "Why?"
Yeah.
Because we know the product. But once again, who's marketing out to that?
Yeah.
And
what's interesting with these product types that I want to point out is like you either have to model what's working for somebody else, which is basically what everybody's doing for that 322 in Arlington, looking at gurus that are doing this and they're putting all their content out there.
Right.
Or you have to kind of pave a new path. And that's what gets you to, if you heard of like red ocean, blue ocean kind of stuff, that's what gets you to the blue ocean is by paving the new path. But something like I'm really passionate about that we're working on right now is to not leave what's working behind, but taking slow steps towards, the new frontiers while maintaining the old stuff. And that's you've demonstrated this really well as you've made kind of these steps, towards more of this, property type. I don't want to give it all away. We got some cool presentations coming up on it pretty soon, but how to find these property types, where to find these property types. But it wasn't like one day you were doing 322s in Arlington, the next day you were doing this. It was slow steps over time, figuring out what worked, figuring out what didn't work as you kind of opened up this new frontier.
Right. And just to speak on that, like I can remember like we were buying as cheap as possible because I was very reserved. And so it was like, I think a couple 2-1s. We had a 3-1 in Fort Worth. We had a 1 in Blum. Like one of our first flips was in Blum. You might be like, why Blum?
Or maybe not even know where it is.
It looked like a deal. And I'm like, it doesn't need but some minor cosmetics is what we saw. So for us, it was more about
Did that one
reservation.
Work out for you or not work out for you?
So we had it on the market for a while, and it ended up being like it was definitely not as expected. And I think we still made it. I think we made somewhere between 15 to 20 after all of it was said and done. But that was a win, and it's like maybe we would have expected to make 40, I think is what our initial.
But it wasn't the only deal on the table either, right? You had this other stuff that you knew worked as you were trying to make steps towards a bluer.
And at that time, we had multiple different streams that we could use from. But it goes back to you're going to do different steps. So for us, we wanted that deal specifically to being reserved. We didn't want to do foundation. We didn't want to do roofs. We didn't want to do all of these different things that made us. And now it's like every house we're doing foundation. It feels like, and it's nothing. And so
it's like we're begging, give us the ugliest, crappiest houses because we know how to take care of the majors. Like we've realized it's not that, but we're modeling what has already worked for us in the past. We've got the contractors, we've got the people. So now that process is more streamlined. We went from modeling what worked for other people to now modeling what's already working in our own business.
Yeah. And that's true. And it's just finding those specific things that work and then going after them. Let me give you a real quick thing. So this is for anybody out there that is looking for deals or looking for new clients or whatnot. And I'll go back to this is back maybe about 2017, I had started a farming area where I sent mailers. So kind of the same. So if
you started farming,
started
look at that,
baby. No. So we did these mailers, and I remember doing them, and I had this idea, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do them this way. And I sent them out, and I was trying to get seller leads, listing leads. That was my goal. My target was I want to help sellers list their house.
Right.
And so that's how my ad was.
This is as a realtor back when you were
exactly. So we sent these out, and I think I got out of the first like 2 batches, I got 3 deals from those, and they were small batches, and it worked. And so when it worked, then all of a sudden I got busier, and then all of a sudden I started doing other things, and then other buyers popped up, and before I knew it, I wasn't mailing those out again, or when I mailed them out, I didn't get a deal on that next one. So all of a sudden I scrapped that whole thing, not really intentionally, but just because I forgot where the deals were. I forgot what worked, and I forgot to go after what worked.
Right.
And so it's the same thing in any industry. It doesn't matter if it's real estate, it doesn't matter anywhere. If you follow something that works and you keep doing it, don't stop doing it. And it's like, what we're doing now is a little
don't make
bit
huge shifts, right? Like if it's working, marketing these farmers,
right.
Don't just stop marketing that way. Like, well, I think I have a better way to market. Just start something completely different and be like, oh, no calls anymore. I'm done. Like, no, there was something that's working. Slowly make changes to that, slow improvements where you're really doing like A/B testing, right? Split testing to see what's giving you the best results.
Yeah. And from a personal level, I love adding to this because I think at the end of the day, we don't, sometimes we don't talk enough about this, but like sometimes we don't put these same practices from what we learn in business or what we learn in different types of entities to like how we are in our personal life. And so I'm just now really at this time of life starting to learn that, okay, you got to implement these practices, certain little behaviors that work, and then just keep doing them and keep doing them and keep doing them.
Right.
Because if we do that, then we know it works, don't change it. And so I think it challenges, and hopefully it challenges you guys just to think about those things. Like what really works in our household? What really works in our finances? What really works in our spiritual life? What really works in all these different phases of life? And looking for that one little tiny nugget, one nugget. And we touched on it last week, but I'm just so focused on this because it goes back to the deals. If you know how to get business,
right,
and you found, in a way, you might say you found the secret sauce or whatever it may be, then keep doing it. Like keep doing it, and then build layers, like an onion almost.
Yeah.
But
well, and this just popped in my head. You know what? One of the most basic. Last week we talked about the basic, kind of fundamentals, and this week we're talking about modeling what works. Right? What is one of the things that is not pretty or sexy to model that works in a business? Base hits.
I mean,
and I mean, it's like this land deal that we looked at. Like, is picking up 2 lots and making $5,000 really that sexy of a deal? No. Like, but at the end of the day, it's a deal. And if we do that deal, like one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is establishing, or we're going to be talking about a lot, and what we're working on, but is establishing really your presence in the market and what you're looking for as you're modeling what works. So like, hey, I found this strategy that works for me. I'm the farm guy for, realtors. You establish your presence in the market. This is who I am all day, every day. It's an identity that you put on. Like Nathan, right now, he's put on the identity of the cowboy. But for real, like that becomes your identity, and then you've got to continue just making headway on that, until you own that space in the market. Because people know you as that guy. They know you as that guy who sells the farmhouses. They know us as that guy who buys land in this area. They know us as that guy who buys, well, we don't want to give away all of our secrets, but these types of property types that we found a niche in.
Yeah, and 2 days ago, I got reached out, just to give an example of that. I got reached out 2 years ago from an agent that I met. It was 3 years ago. I bought a deal from him. A great guy. Like he was kind of starting out as a realtor, and not realtor. But anyway, he was starting out, and I remember he was looking for investors to buy a property in Arlington. We bought it. We ate lunch afterwards, got to meet him. Awesome guy. We've stayed in touch over the years, but nothing really, like no engagement in business whatsoever, really. He reaches out of nowhere and says, hey, I got a deal in Burleson.
Nice.
Can you guys walk it and let me know? And it's all real estate. So this isn't your traditional like investor pickup off market. You got a listing agent, you got a buying agent. They're just trying to do it off market because the seller doesn't want to have people come in and out of their house like showings.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, we've submitted our offer, and we're going to hopefully get that deal locked up. But the thing is that goes back to it. He reached out to us after 3 years of not having much communication because he knew we were able to buy. He saw what we did that first time.
Yeah.
No option period, cash. Like he sees that as an opportunity to say, okay, well, I know that this is a way to get that deal locked up. So for him, it's the same thing. If he all of a sudden started targeting retail buyers, and I'm getting a little excited about this, so I'm sorry, but if he started targeting a certain different type of buyer, then he's probably going to have a headache.
Right.
But he remembered he had me saved in there as a guy that bought a property when he needed to have that type of person. And at the end of the day, he's got, they have a couple offers. So we're going to have to beat out a higher offer with our terms and credibility, hopefully. But at the end of the day, if we don't, no big deal, because they still solve their problem.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. We still want to be a solution for what other people's problems are.
Right.
And then vice versa. He's solving a problem for us.
Right. But when we go back to looking for deals in all the wrong places, you didn't even have to look for that deal. Yeah. Right. But somebody reaches out to you because of that relationship, and you've established your presence in the market, and now they're just telling you, hey, I just need an offer.
Yeah. And to me, that's the right place.
Yeah.
That's what you want to build. And we're very thankful for that. We've been able to have the right places pop up over those times.
Right.
But for certain, we've spent a lot of time looking for deals in the wrong places.
Right.
And it becomes a struggle, and you're going to go through a lot of headaches. Right. But I just think that right now it's a very fun time because through all our different avenues and different business ventures and stuff, every deal is a little different.
Yeah.
And seeing how different things work and seeing people grow and all these different things, when you have all these different niches, you said it best, stick to that niche.
Right.
So like I couldn't say, hey, Kendell, let's go and do all of these different platforms to try to find these deals, because we only have so much bandwidth together, right? But I might have bandwidth with another person, or it might be with the team that we built, or it might be with somebody else that brings a JV deal to us, because they have bandwidth. And so you're going to find different types of things, but you got to have that one. One person may be all land, one person may be all houses, one person may be all foreclosures, one person may be all it just depends. There's so many different avenues, and so it's an exciting time. And
well, and one other thing I wanted to talk about, like in modeling what works, is why are we even doing this podcast in the first place? We could just be running deals all the time, not doing the podcast. But it's because we realize that, in all transparency, we're aiming for an 8-figure a year business with this new startup that we're doing. And so we're at 0. How do we get to 8 figures? And, you look at all these people who have built successful business, they have to have a large presence. They have to have a large bandwidth of following. So people, it's about getting out there and establishing your presence in the marketplace for who do you want to be. And so that's why we're doing this. And there was an interesting thing. If you haven't heard of Russell Brunson, check him out. He's a really cool business guy. And he said this, I wrote it down on my phone. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You can tell I'm a follower. I'm a part of the culture, as he says.
Funneler.
But he had this video the other day, and he said and I'm going to read this. He said something, I'm paraphrasing here, but that, courage isn't being able to do something great the first time. Courage is when you step up to a new frontier, when you step up to a new obstacle, when you step up to a new challenge. Everybody gets these feelings of butterflies, right? The unknown, the unsure, like even doing this podcast. Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to make a fool of myself? Like, what the heck am I doing? Do I even know what I'm talking about? Do I have any value to add, and what we're doing, like, I've been nervous about putting content out there, about doing the podcast, but doing this stuff at times. I know you've been nervous. We talked about it before. But he said something. He said, what's really interesting is the feeling of nervousness versus the feeling of excitement. They're pretty similar feelings when you break it down. You have the butterflies, you've got the jitters. And so instead of sitting here and thinking, I'm nervous, start saying, I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's been something for me that this last week that I've applied for modeling what works. I have, he's one of the many guys that I follow that, I respect and have built really cool things. And I look at them like, okay, how do I apply that to my life? How do I look at new things, such as Nathan suggesting that we record a music video. And
we got a video.
And it's coming. We're like probably a minute around the corner. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, say, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And so with that, I mean, I would say, is there really any better transitions or anything else you want to say? Or just
real quick, because I think it kind of hit me again, just to be, because I felt like when we did this, we had to be real, we had to be raw. So like, I wanted to try to do some like type of podcast, but I am just the absolute worst of like trying to like be intentional about stuff that doesn't necessarily, it's kind of like what they used to say, do those tasks that make you money, right?
Mm.
Like if they, in business, they say, do the tasks that make you money for whoever it is. And not just about making money, but it's just put your time, value your time.
Right.
And so, we've been doing this, 3 weeks? And I love the way we're doing it. And it's why, because he's intentionally saying, hey, we're going to meet at this time. And that's kind of what I need in a sense, because we believe in it, but we also, this is enjoyable. Like, I'm excited. Like right now, I know this sounds silly, but I'm excited because it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
We finally got this kind of light here, just to let you guys know. So the light,
because it was kind of dark, and we're like, okay, but we solved problems as we went.
Yeah, and we're not, like we mentioned, we're not like trying to have this. I don't know what this is going to look like, but the point is we're doing it, and we're taking a step, and the goal is taking a step, and I just want this to be also a relay of take little steps, because in a year from now we might go back and look at these and say, oh my goodness, why did we do it like that? And we're going to remember those times,
but we started somewhere, right?
That's it. That's the key. So but yeah, if you guys are don't know if you got anything from today, you'll at least get a little comedy,
a little honky tonk action,
a little honky tonk.
All right.
You got we gotta play some music. You guys ready for this?
Here we go. Hey, and if you're not on the YouTube video,
oh buddy,
pull up YouTube. But we got something good for you. I'm gonna grab my guitar, slide these chairs out of the way. Here we go.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah, come on, buddy.
Okay.
You had something you want to say?
Let's do this.
All right, here we go.
You ready for this?
This special treat just for you.
Just for you. Oh, real step low back.
I've been a lifetime looking for deals.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Single families, lots and land weren't always good.
No, they weren't, brother. No, they weren't. Playing a guru's game, just hoping to win.
That was pretty good. And putting offers on sweet, sweet deals and losing again. I was looking for deals in all the wrong places, looking for deals in too many places, searching for spam, looking through mail for what I'm dreaming of, hoping to find a deal and some money. I'll bless the day I discover a money deal. Looking for deals. Yeah!
So sometimes you got to model what works. Sometimes you just got to have a little bit of fun, do the next right thing, and get her done. Thanks for joining us for episode number 3. We'll see you guys next week.